So when I chopped off my dad's finger by accident, we were taking apart a basketball hoop, a large basketball hoop, and it had a gear which you would pull up and it would raise the basketball hoop up and down. And when we were taking it apart, I was holding part of the basketball hoop, and he knocked a bolt out of it, and the basketball hoop was top-heavy, so the top of the basketball hoop with the gears came down like this, and my dad's hand was in between that. It hit the glove, cut through the glove, and actually cut off my dad's finger. During this time, my dad was practically fainted, almost fainted, and I slowly walked him into the kitchen. Blood was everywhere, and I got him onto the sink, and then I ran over to my neighbor's house and told him what happened, and he drove my dad to the hospital. My dad's finger, it basically went practically almost all the way, it literally was cut off. It was hanging by skin. I still remember his hand being in the sink and just sitting there, and I took off the glove and his finger was just hanging off of his hand. Amazingly, they somehow were able to attach it. The reason I'm telling you this story is because I could not imagine if I picked up the phone to call 911, and because a lot of people react differently to situations under stress, I picked up the phone, called 911, let's say I'm panicking really bad, and I say a swear word on the phone, calling the 911 emergency operator, and the first thing they say to me is, you need to stop swearing, and then hang up on me, because I use profanity, calling 911 for an emergency, for my dad who chopped off his finger, and they would hang up on me simply because I use profanity. Because everybody reacts differently when stressful situations such as someone gets hurt, or they break their head open, or they chop off their finger. For me personally, when my dad got his finger chopped off, it didn't faze me a bit. I was worried, but it didn't bother me. I didn't get grossed out by it. I was calm, and I normally when I get really afraid, I usually swear. And I just can't imagine if I had been afraid and called 911 instead of go to my neighbors, having a cop hang up the phone on me simply because I swore in the phone conversation is pretty ridiculous, as you will see here.
In the downriver city of Lincoln Park every year, people dial 911 more than 14,000 times. And let's make it clear right up front, those emergency calls are generally very well handled. But that doesn't make what happened to Adrian Ledesma any less shocking.
I was really scared because, it's my dad, and he fell. He was not supposed to fall like that.
His fall was so frightening because he was just 3 weeks out of the hospital where he underwent brain surgery, and suddenly he's on the kitchen floor, unconscious and shaking with a severe seizure.
I was scared. I don't know, I was freaking out.
So this 17-year-old grabbed her phone and dialed 911. She says she got no quick answers, so hung up and called again. Now, those emergency calls are recorded, but did you know the recording starts even before the call is answered? So you can hear her near panic when again she can't get an immediate answer, blurting out the F word just as the call is picked up.
911.
I need an ambulance for 5 Hartwig.
But the Lincoln Park cop who takes the call admonishes her and only makes her more frantic.
Well, okay, first of all, you don't need to swear over 911.
Okay.
And slow down.
Ambulance.
You haven't had a chance to tell him how serious this is, right? And he's already hung up the phone.
Well, I thought my dad was going to die. I was really scared.
So you called back.
911.
Are you going to give me an ambulance?
Are you going to swear again, you stupid?
Are we going to have a problem?
No, you're not going to one.
You lose your job.
Your dad's still on the floor.
Well, I'm thinking he's seriously hurt because he's still having a seizure, and it's a really long seizure. And I'm thinking that I want to, complain about this guy because he shouldn't be hanging up on me.
So she calls back a third time.
911.
I just want to know what's your name because you're getting sued.
Good.
What is it?
Good. Good for you, because you're a buffoon.
After wasting more than 6 minutes, the cop finally called the rescue squad.
There it is. I kept getting a 911 call from this filthy-mouthed girl that wanted a rescue. I never found out what it was, and I was never able to transfer it over to you.
And that's the same story he told on the police radio when he dispatched a squad car to the house.
I kept getting 911 calls from this girl, hostile girl, requesting a rescue. No idea what it's for. I couldn't get through her comments.
Meanwhile, Adrian left her older brother to tend to her dad and rushed a few blocks here to police headquarters to demand help and file a complaint. By now, she was even more agitated, more profane, and louder when the cop greeted her with this.
"Are you the girl with the foul mouth?" And I said, "Yes." And then he came out from the back and then put me in the back room and then arrested me.
That's right, she was cuffed and cited for disorderly conduct and abusing 911, a charge that doesn't even exist. So, who is this officer who so badly mishandled such an important job? He's Sergeant Robert McFarland, a 20-year veteran of the department and a man who did his best to avoid public accountability for what he did here.
Sergeant,
get out of here.
Help us understand.
Get out of here.
What were you thinking?
No comment.
What were you thinking, sir? You put a life in danger, you put the taxpayers at risk.
Now, as someone who only has to wait a few more months and then I can actually send in my job application as a police officer, when I see stories like this of an officer reacting this way, if I was the manager of that police department, this 20-year veteran police officer would be fired because his mentality and his attitude towards the situation was wrong, period. There's no justification for it. He just within the first conversation you see of this girl, he hangs up on her. You don't hang up on someone who's calling 911. And as the video said, you arrested this girl for abusing 911, and that's not even, you can't arrest somebody for calling 911 too many times. You can't. There's no law against that. And this attitude is just repulsive. Because if there's one thing about law enforcement, they are supposed to represent professionalism in their job. And in this video, this cop does the opposite of that. I was grateful to hear, though, is that this cop actually got a 2.5 week suspension of no pay. Although, quite personally, I think he should have been fired for his attitude. There are a lot of bad cops out there. There are a lot of jerkish a-holes who work in law enforcement who use their power to abuse other people. That, or the cops think that they are more superior than the citizens that they are actually supposed to be serving. Because the biggest thing about policing is actually policing is strictly, most don't do this, but policing is strictly on serving the community in which you live. It is serving the community, upholding the law, and helping citizens who need help. And what this officer did here was the exact opposite of that. So what are your thoughts? Do you hold the same position that this cop was a complete and utter jerk and he deserves to be fired? Or do you think that the decision to suspend him for 2 weeks of no pay, which is better than nothing, obviously, but I still think he should have been fired personally. Love to hear your thoughts. And what are your thoughts on cops in general? I know a lot of people do not like cops, but if I become one, I do hope that I'm going to strive to be a professional cop in a lot of the things I do. And I especially believe in equality. I don't believe in racial profiling. I don't believe in being an a-hole just because I have a badge on my suit, and that gives me the right to treat people like SHIT. With that said, I'm Mr. Epsilon, also known as Daniel Solzbach. Peace the rep out.